Sorry about that, just technical issues. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما نافعا وعملا صالحا. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما نافعا وعملا صالحا. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما نافعا وعملا صالحا. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. أما بعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Okay, inshallah, we'll start from Surah Al-Kahf, verse 60. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وإذ قال موسى لفتاه لا أبرح حتى أبلغ مجمع البحرين أو أمضي حقبا فلما بلغا مجمع بينهما نسيا حوتهما فاتخذ سبيله في البحر سربا فلما جاوزا قال لفتاه آتنا غداءنا لقد لقينا من سفرنا هذا نصبا قال أرأيت إذ أوينا إلى الصخرة فإني نسيت الحوت وما أنسانيه إلا الشيطان أن أذكره واتخذ سبيله في البحر عجبا قال ذلك ما كنا نبغي فارتدا على آثارهما قصصا فوجدا عبدا من عبادنا آتيناه رحمة من عندنا وعلمناه من لدنا علما قال له موسى هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا قال إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما لم تحط به خبرا قال ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا قال فإن اتبعتني فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرا فانطلقا حتى إذا ركبا في السفينة خرقها قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا إمرا قال ألم أقل إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت ولا ترهقني من أمري عسرا فانطلقا حتى إذا لقيا غلاما فقتله قال أقتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا قال ألم أقل لك إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا قال إن سألتك عن شيء بعدها فلا تصاحبني قد بلغت من لدني عذرا فانطلقا حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما فوجدا فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض فأقامه قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا أما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر فأردت أن أعيبها وكان وراءهم ملك يأخذ كل سفينة غصبا وأما الغلام فكان أبواه مؤمنين فخشينا أن يرهقهما طغيانا وكفرا فأردنا أن يبدلهما ربهما خيرا منه زكاة وأقرب رحما وأما الجدار فكان لغلامين يتيمين في المدينة وكان تحته كنز لهما وكان أبوهما صالحا فأراد ربك أن يبلغا أشدهما ويستخرجا كنزهما رحمة من ربك وما فعلته عن أمري ذلك تأويل ما لم تسطع عليه صبرا ويسألونك عن ذي القرنين قل سأتلو عليكم منه ذكرا إنا مكنا له في الأرض وآتيناه من كل شيء سببا فأتبع سببا حتى إذا بلغ مغرب الشمس وجدها تغرب في عين حمئة ووجد عندها قوما قلنا يا ذا القرنين إما أن تعذب وإما أن تتخذ فيهم حسنا قال أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه ثم يرد إلى ربه فيعذبه عذابا نكرا وأما من آمن وعمل صالحا فله جزاء الحسنى وسنقول له من أمرنا يسرا ثم أتبع سببا حتى إذا بلغ مطلع الشمس وجدها تطلع على قوم لم نجعل لهم من دونها سترا كذلك وقد أحطنا بما لديه خبرا ثم أتبع سببا حتى إذا بلغ بين السدين وجد من دونهما قوما لا يكادون يفقهون قولا قالوا يا ذا القرنين إن يأجوج ومأجوج مفسدون في الأرض فهل نجعل لك خرجا على أن تجعل بيننا وبينهم سدا قال ما مكني فيه ربي خير فأعينوني بقوة أجعل بينكم وبينهم ردما آتوني زبر الحديد حتى إذا ساوى بين الصدفين قال انفخوا حتى إذا جعله نارا قال آتوني أفرغ عليه قطرا فما استطاعوا أن يظهروه وما استطاعوا له نقبا قال هذا رحمة من ربي فإذا جاء وعد ربي جعله دكا وكان وعد ربي حقا وتركنا بعضهم يومئذ يموج في بعض ونفخ في الصور فجمعناهم جمعا وعرضنا جهنم يومئذ للكافرين عرضا الذين كانت أعينهم في غطاء عن ذكري وكانوا لا يستطيعون سمعا أفحسب الذين كفروا أن يتخذوا عبادي من دوني أولياء إنا أعتدنا جهنم للكافرين نزلا قل هل ننبئكم بالأخسرين أعمالا الذين ضل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا أولئك الذين كفروا بآيات ربهم ولقائه فحبطت أعمالهم فلا نقيم لهم يوم القيامة وزنا ذلك جزاؤهم جهنم بما كفروا واتخذوا آياتي ورسلي هزوا إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا خالدين فيها لا يبغون عنها حولا قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد فمن كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا. Last lesson, we stopped at the mindset, which is my loftiest potential lies in the level of my obedience towards our Ummah's upright leaders. Our Ummah's upright leaders. Let me just give some of the wholesome characteristics the Ummah's leaders ought to have in order for you to recognize. First and foremost, they have to be Muslims. First and foremost, they have to be Muslims. So, first and foremost, they have to be Muslims. Secondly, they obey the sunnah of the leaders before them. They obey the sunnah, i.e. the paths of the leaders before them. When I give the characteristics, I'm going to give you the characteristics what distinguishes them as the leaders of the Ummah. So, how do you identify them? So they follow and obey the sunnah of the leaders above them and the ones who came before them. Third, they have a vision and mission for the Ummah. Locally, first and foremost, i.e. when everyone's young, unless one is born into the leadership of the Ummah, into the position of authority, the rest of us, obviously, we start off at the local level without any positions of authority. That's generally speaking. So they have vision and mission for the Ummah at a local level. They are able to sacrifice more than the rest of people. they give precedence to responsibilities over their rights or over their interests. When I mean rights, I mean personal rights. When I mean interests, I mean personal interests. No rights of the cause, not rights of the vision, no rights of the mission. That they have to fight for. If it means they have to fight for that. They analyze things in a very meticulous, detailed way. So they don't jumble up things together and give a ruling. They analyze everything in a meticulous manner, by which they give every matter its due. And then they judge. And when they judge, if it's overall judgment, they add those meticulous rulings and then they give the overall judgment. Okay. When it comes to the personality, they are wholesomely merciful, wholesomely generous, wholesomely empathetic, and they have sympathy. They have a big heart in a nutshell. They have a big heart. Their hearts are bigger than the rest of the people around. However, when it comes to the ummah, or when it comes to community issues, or when it comes to the cause and the vision and the mission, they are assertive. They are assertive. It's very, very important. So when it comes to them at the personal level, they are merciful, they are kind, they are generous, they overlook. Yeah? But when it comes to the ummah, they change, they are assertive. So they make sure no harm is inflicted to the ummah, be at a local level or wherever they have the authority and influence. They make sure that no harm inflicts the ummah. In other words, they are not naive and gullible. In other words, they are not passive. Yeah, they are not passive. They are proactively assertive when it comes to repelling the harms against the ummah. They also have more patience than the rest of the people around them. They are able to forbear, especially the difficulties and challenges of personal matters of their lives. Be it poverty, be it issues with their spouses, be it issues with their children. They are able to forbear. more than others. More than others. So, for example, what was the longest trial of Ibrahim alayhi salam? The longest trial of Ibrahim alayhi salam was?
Separation from his family.
Yes, separation from his family, but he was unable to have children.
Oh, no.
That was his longest trial. Same with Zakaria alayhi salam. Same with Yusuf and Yaqub alayhi salam. So even though they were prophets, and even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them authority and influence and so forth, but the longest trial, it was a personal trial they were going through. Same with Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His personal life trial was severe emotionally. طيب. Khadija passed away at a very difficult time. عنها. And when it comes to Aisha, there was slandering going on. And then his son passed away, Ibrahim. His daughters were divorced. And they also passed away before him, except Fatima. So all of his children, they passed away before him. He had to bury all of them. So his personal life trial was very severe. Even though he was the most beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they're able to forbear and be patient. And this is one of the greatest assets they have. As Rasul said, إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ عِنْدَ صَدْمَةِ الْأُولَى. إِنَّمَا الصَّبْرُ عِنْدَ صَدْمَةِ الْأُولَى. Does that mean? I saw Rasul saying that the patience that is rewarded, the patience that is valued, the patience that by which you are distinguished by the rest, is the patience that when the trial hits you, when the difficulty and challenge hits you, at that moment, you're grounded. You're solid. You don't shatter inside. You don't break down inside. You're anchored. You're able to anchor yourself. Yeah? Not afterwards. So that's the patience that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted the prophets to have, and they had it. And that's the patience that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants the leaders to have also. Why? Because the essence of the trial of the leaders is deception. And then when you find out you are being deceived, that's when you need to be patient and not lose it. Right. Next characteristic is they are optimistic. They are hopeful. When I mean by optimistic, I don't mean they are wishful. They are wishful thinking. As I called it the other day, wishful thinking is like a drug. Okay, and people are living their life with wishful thinking, and they're living a life on a high. And when the reality hits them hard, then they realize they were on a high. They were living a dream life. So no, what I mean by they're hopeful and optimistic is they see the fabric of society, the fabric of the ins and outs, what's coming in, what's going out, the harms and the benefits, the khair and the evil. They see all of that in a grand scale. And they see beneath all of that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his qadr, his plans and his executions. And above that also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qadr, his plans and his executions. And overall, the whole creation, its cause and effects are towards khair. It pulls towards khair, anything that's good. So based on that, they are realistically optimistic. They never lose hope. They always find ways of resilience. They always find a means to outwit and outsmart their enemies, and they always find options to, even if it means a later day, they always find options to fight another day, or plan for another day, or have the last laugh. They plan for the last laugh. Finally, the greatest asset of wholesome character they have is when they have to let go of even the mission and vision rights, have to let go for the sake of greater good of the community, they can even let that go. Yeah, as Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu did. Yeah, as Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu did.
If they have to let go?
The cause and the vision and the mission, I stay right, but if they have to let it go for the sake of the greater unity, for the greater cause, for the greater vision, the greater mission, then they can let go of their rights. They are deserving of that position, they are deserving of the authority, they are deserving of that power, they are deserving of leading that. But if they have to even let that go, that right, then they do so, as Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu did. Rasulullah praised what Hassan would do. He prophesied, Inna ibni hada sayyidun. My son, this my son, he is a leader. He is a leader, i.e. he is deserving of leading the Muslim Ummah. However, maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will unite through him two groups of the Muslim Ummah. Maybe through him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will unite two groups of the Muslim Ummah. Yeah? And he did. When he let go of the Khalif position, he gave it to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu willingly, wholeheartedly, then the whole Ummah was united. And thus the year was called Year of the Jama'ah, the year of unity. So if it means that they actually give in the rights of the cause and the vision and the mission for the greater cause, for the greater vision, for the greater mission, then they would wholeheartedly, willingly do so. They will not make a fuss, they will not create a fitna, they will not cause a fitna. These are some of the characteristics by which you can recognize your local leaders. Now they deserve and are worthy of our obedience. Our obedience. And this is agreed upon, that when a leader has a position of authority, when he gets the position of authority, the first thing you do is obey. The first thing you do is obey. That's his first right on you, is that you obey. After that, you can then complain or whatever you want to complain to him about. No problem. You can discuss with him whatever you want to discuss with him. No problem. But you have to first obey him. Otherwise, the Ummah will not be united. Locally, or nationally, or internationally. Now, let's go to the biography of Musa and Khadir. You will find all of these characteristics that we mentioned. You will find them obviously with these two prophets, these giants of Islam. But the most important character here that kept is repeated is the character of patience, the character of forbearance. Especially when it comes to learning, especially when you're being mentored and coached and you're being taught, then the greatest character is you hear and you obey and you be patient therein. The quickest way to learn isn't by asking questions. The quickest way to learn is having we hear and we obey attitude, and you be patient therein, and then you observe and you learn from them. And afterwards, when you have understood their ways, their paths, the way they do things, then you can ask the relevant questions. I'm going to skip some part of the first part of the journey when Musa Islam takes Yusha bin Nun with him, and the issue of the fish and all that. I'm going to miss that because you can find it in Bukhari, Sahih Bukhari. If you just Google it, you'll find the whole biography of those two giants of ours, right, in detail. Those three giants, Musa, Khadir alayhi salam, and Yusha ibn Nun alayhi salam. طيب. So when he met Khadir alayhi salam, he went and said to him, هل أتبعك على أن تعلمني مما علمت رشدا? Can I follow you to learn what you have been taught of rushd? Rushd is comprehensive execution, right, for the greatest of betterment of the matter. So a comprehensive execution of the greatest betterment of a matter, could be any matter. So Khadir replied back to Musa, even though Khadir knew who this was, he was the greatest messenger ever. Khadir said to him, إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. You will not be able to be patient with me. Yeah? You'll not be able to be patient with myself. And then he gave the reason why Musa cannot be patient with Khadir. He said, وَكَيْفَ تَصْبِرُ عَلَى مَا لَمْ تُحِطْ بِهِ خُبْرًا. How can you be patient with me when you cannot, or when you do not know the information that I know? I am comprehending an information. I am receiving information that you do not know. Yeah. So he was making a justifiable reason. He was saying, you not being patient is understandable. You can understand why you cannot be patient, because I have something which you do not have. Musa replied back by saying, ستجدني إن شاء الله صابرا ولا أعصي لك أمرا. Inshallah, you'll find me patient, right? And inshallah, you'll find me that I am not disobedient to your command. Yeah. Here, when it comes to any mentoring, any coaching, any teaching, this is the fastest way to learn and develop and discipline yourself. This is the quickest way for you to develop the past leaders and teachers and mentors and coaches ways is by you simply listening and obeying and being patient therein. So Musa alayhi salam is telling you, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in other words, telling you that whenever you go to a teacher, whenever you go to a mentor, whenever you go to a coach, have the attitude of listening and obeying and observation and patience. Yeah. When the questions will come to you, keep them quiet until the time is right for you to ask those questions. So, Khadir alayhi salam said, قال فإن اتبعتني فلا تسألني عن شيء حتى أحدث لك منه ذكرى. Khadir alayhi salam said, okay, no problem. You can come with me, you can follow me, but do not ask me anything until I inform you of their realities. Do not ask. Be patient. Do not ask me anything until I inform you of their realities. فانطلقا, so they both went. حتى إذا ركبا في السفينة خرقها, until they came to a ship or a boat. It's not a boat because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said safina, so it's bigger than a normal boat because it carries people, so it can't be small boat. So it's a big boat, a bit fancy, a bit nice. It's not just average boat basically. But Khadir alayhi salam, he made a hole into it. It's such a hole that it stopped the ship crossing over to the side of the river. Okay, they crossed, but then the boat became stranded, right? Obviously, Khadir alayhi salam paid the boys who were owners of this boat to repair. So he destroyed the boat, but he paid them for them to repair the boat. And those boys obviously know who Khadir alayhi salam is, and they know that this is somewhat he does these things, right? They are aware, and that's why they did not make a fuss with Khadir alayhi salam or Musa alayhi salam. قال أخرقتها لتغرق أهلها لقد جئت شيئا إمرا. So Khadir alayhi salam did that, and Musa alayhi salam said to him, he spoke. See, he was not meant to speak. He said, look, I'm going to explain to you afterwards. Just be patient. Follow me. He didn't. Musa alayhi salam straight away spoke. And that's Musa's character. Musa's character, he cannot he cannot ignore anything harmful or anything oppressive. That's Musa's character. That's why Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam praised Musa, that he was very patient with Bani Israel. He's very patient with Bani Israel because his character is very, very assertive, very, very upfront character. He cannot stand any harm. He cannot stand any oppression. So here, he straight away said that did you destroy a boat that now it will drown people. So Khadir alayhi replied back by saying, "Alam aqul innaka lan tastati'a ma'iya sabra." Did I not tell you, did I not inform you that you will not be able to be patient? قال لا تؤاخذني بما نسيت ولا ترهقني من أمري عسرا. So then Musa alayhi salam justified it by saying, you know, I forgot. This is my character. It just came out. I just outburst. It just came out, right? And do not take me into account because what you're doing is so strange, right? It's so strange, so difficult for me to comprehend, so do not take me into account. That's fine. Khadir al-Islam said, no problem. فانطلقا حتى إذا لقي غلاما فقتله قال أقتلت نفسا زكية بغير نفس لقد جئت شيئا نكرا. So Khadir al-Islam, then he went to a village and he saw boys playing. Khadir al-Islam went up to a boy, he grabbed him, got his neck, and he basically twisted his neck and killed him. He was a teenager. So Musa al-Islam again was unable to be patient and said, أَقَتَلْتَ نَفْسًا زَكِيَّةً بِغَيْرِ نَفْسٍ لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. Did you kill an innocent self without the justifiable cause? I hear this young boy did not kill anyone. So how could you kill this young boy? لَقَدْ جِئْتَ شَيْئًا نُكْرًا. So what you've done is something very, very nukr. Nukr is something very abhorrent. First one, okay, you did something that people can fix and rectify, but this is something abhorrent. This is something nasty or evil. So Khadir said again, أَلَمْ أَقُلْ لَكَ إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. Did I tell you, did I inform you that you'll not be able to be patient with myself? Then Musa said, إِنْ سَأَلْتُكَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ بَعْدَهَا. This is Musa now saying it. He's closing the door to himself. إِنْ سَأَلْتُكَ عَنْ شَيْءٍ بَعْدَهَا فَلَا تُصَاحِبْنِي قَدْ بَلَغْتَ مِنْ لَدُنِّي عُذْرًا. If I ask you one more time, then do not accompany me. خلاص. I will depart, you will depart your way. قَدْ بَلَغْتَ مِنْ لَدُنِّي عُذْرًا. I will not have any more excuse after that. فانطلقا حتى إذا أتيا أهل قرية استطعما أهلها فأبوا أن يضيفوهما فوجدا فيها جدارا يريد أن ينقض فأقامه قال لو شئت لاتخذت عليه أجرا قال هذا فراق بيني وبينك سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. So then they went to another village, Khadir asked those village people to host them. Those village people refused. That's strange for those village people to refuse, especially when people are asking for them to be hosted. Yeah. So in that village, when Khadir was walking past by that village afterwards, when they refused them, they were passing by, Khadir saw a wall falling, like it's sort of falling down. So Khadir fixed that wall, made it straight upright. So Musa said, what you did, you could have taken a reward. This wall is falling. You could have taken a reward for the work you did for that wall. Yeah? And then we could have bought something to eat, or we could have hosted ourselves a shelter and so forth and so on. So then, why did you do good to this village when they were bad to you? So then, obviously, Musa broke his promise. So Khadir said, هذا فراق بيني وبينك سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. So Khadir said, you know what, this is enough. This is it. This is where we depart, me and you we depart. سأنبئك بتأويل ما لم تستطع عليه صبرا. So I will tell you, I'll inform you the realities, ta'wil here, i.e. the end realities, the end results, the end fruits, yeah, of these matters. أما السفينة فكانت لمساكين يعملون في البحر فأردت أن أعيبها وكان وراءهم ملك يأخذ كل سفينة غصبا. As for the ship, right, they belong to the masakin. Masakin, they are poor, destitute people working on the sea or on the river from taking people from one shore to another shore, and they were making money through that. That's with their income. But they were poor, destitute young boys. I destroyed the ship. Why? Because I knew there was a oppressive king that was passing by the river, and he was taking, right, every good ship by force. He was taking it by force. So if I destroyed that ship, then obviously he would not take that ship. So that was the answer. That's why I destroyed it. So I did not destroy it for the sake of destroying that ship, nor did I destroy it for the sake of destroying the income of the young men, right? Nor did I destroy it to ruin the ship so that people drown. It was for none of those reasons. It was for the reason that a king was passing by, and he was taking every good ship that was on the river. And I wanted to make sure that these two boys, they had the income coming in through their work. And I paid for the damage. That's in the tafsir books, that he paid for the damage that he caused to the ship. وأما الغلام فكان أبواه مؤمنين فخشينا أن يرهقهما طغيانا كفرا. As for the young boy which I apparently murdered, that young boy, his parents are mu'minain. They are upright, righteous believers in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and in the sight of, in reality, they are true, upright, righteous believers, both parents. But if he was to grow up, this young boy, if he was to grow up, he's Muslim now, he would become disobedient and transgress, and eventually he would commit kufr. So I killed him whilst he was a Muslim, whilst he did not transgress, so that his parents do not have to go through his transgressions and disobedience, eventually kufr of his. They have to witness that. So by killing him, he now enters into Jannah, and he will be with them for eternity. And again, in tafsir books, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then gave them the two parents, the righteous parents, gave them another child. And it is said that it was a daughter who will obviously look after them until the old age and until they pass away, and who will be a upright, righteous believer. وأما الجدار فكان لغلامين يتيمين في المدينة وكان تحته كنز لهما وكان أبوهما صالحا. As for the two yatim boys in as for the wall that I erected, I made it upright, it was falling. That wall and that area belonged to two orphaned boys in that city. It's a town, in that town. وَكَانَ تَحْتَهُ كَنْزٌ لَهُمَا. And beneath that garden or that wall, there was treasure for them, kept by their parents or their grandparents, but it was their wealth. It was their wealth. وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا. If the wall fell, then the wealth would have been exposed. Kanz meaning lots of treasure, lots of wealth. Gold, silver, lots of wealth was there. If the wall fell, then their wealth would have been exposed, and because they are still young, that wealth would have been taken by the community. As you saw, the community was not so good community because they did not even host us. We were strangers. Well, obviously, Musa and Khadir will look pious, and yet the host them shows that this community wasn't good people. And also, it shows that most likely these two yatim, they were not being taken care of in a way they ought to. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through Khadir Islam, protected their wealth. So when they grow up, they'll eventually find that wealth, and then obviously they will come out from the difficulty and misery they may be going through at that moment. Rahmatan min Rabbik. This was done from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from Europe. So all of this was done out of His mercy. So destruction of the boat was done out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the two young boys, their income is protected. The young boy was killed. It was out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because now he will enter into Jannah. He will have his parents in Jannah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless these parents with another child who will obey them and who will look after them even until their old age, and even until they pass away, until their death. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed mercy to the young yatim, two boys, right, who were living maybe miserable situation, in miserable days and difficulties of the difficulties, whoever was looking after them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed mercy by keeping the wealth intact. When they grow up, they will find that wealth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of them. All of this was done out of His, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. And then He says, وَمَا فَعَلْتُهُ عَنْ أَمْرِي. I did not do this out of my own will, out of my own command, out of my own choice. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was telling him, informing him of these realities, and also telling him exactly what to do. ذَلِكَ تَأْوِيلُ مَا لَمْ تَسْطِعْ عَلَيْهِ صَبْرًا. That is the realities and the end results and fruits of what you were not able to be patient on. So in this, there's so many benefits, so many empowering benefits and gems to take from this long incident, or incidents, right, and journey. The greatest one is when it comes to your teachers, your mentors and coaches, have sami'na wa ta'ala. Listen and obey, observe, be patient, and ask questions when it's relevant, especially when the teachers say to you, or mentors or coaches say to you, ask questions, and ask questions. Because now they know you are ready to comprehend the realities, to comprehend matters. Okay? Just come from the bathroom. من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. طيب, as we were saying, first and foremost, when you have mentors, teachers, mentors, coaches, then the first attitude, wholesome attitude you ought to have is sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey. And then you observe them. You learn the ways, you learn the way they do things, the way they think, the way they process the thought, the way they conclude, the way they balance things, the way they judge things. All of these things you absorb. Yeah. You try your best to get to know their life history, life's journey, at a very personal level. You try to, the more personal you can become, the more better, right? And they will sooner or later they will open up to you, as long as you are ready to open up also of yourself, of your life story, and so on. So, and then ask the relevant questions. Okay, this is the quickest way to learn and develop and discipline yourself. How many teachers and role models, mentors and coaches you ought to have? I'll generally say 10. If you want to reach your potential, you need to have proactively, you need to seek out 10 different leaders, teachers, mentors, coaches. 10. 10 is the average. You might ask, where did I get that 10 from? Well, I got it from Sallallahu statement that regarding the 10 Sahaba. Yeah, the 10 Ashar al-Mubashirin. Why does Sallallahu specify that 10, even though all of the Sahaba will enter to Jannah? Is because the rest of the Sahaba, if they follow these 10 Sahaba, right, they will be okay, they will be fine. And you also see in the history of Islam in the beginning years, it was what these 10 Sahaba decided that was crucial to the history of our journey of Islam and the establishment of Islam and the liberating of lands from east to west, from to north and the south. It was because of what these 10 Sahaba were deciding. Okay. There is in books, in the Western books, they say 10,000 hours you ought to give to master something. What I say is have 10 different teachers and mentors and coaches, and you'll master whatever you want to master. You will reach your potential. You will reach your potential. Most of us even don't have one role model, right? Let alone having leaders or teachers or mentors or coaches who can really develop us and discipline us. Most of us don't even have one role model. So it's vital. When I'm a role model, they might be role model subconsciously, but they are not your role model consciously and proactively. You have not taken them as role models. Now, you will not discipline yourself, nor will you develop yourself, nor will you grow to your potential if you do not take those role models as your mentors and as your teachers and as your coaches consciously and proactively. What I've seen lately is that I've seen people conclude on matters, right, with experiences of either the East or either the West, and not the experiences of someone who is internally wired upon the Islamic principles. Someone who is internally wired upon the Islamic principles. And I'm seeing the consequences of concluding based on the experiences of the East or the West without referencing with someone who is wired internally, his whole internal being is wired upon Islam, principles of Islam. It's not based upon East or the West or culture. It's his whole internal being is simply based on the pure wahy, the pure revelation. And the consequences we can see are so severe, be it in masajid, be it in institutions, be it in organizations. The consequences we can see is very, very severe. So I will add one other thing, and that is those 10 teachers, mentors, and coaches, make sure they are internally wired upon the wahy. They are internally wired upon the wahy. 100%, whatever they say, whatever they do, whatever they do is based upon the principles of Islam. They may commit personal sins, that's between them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it comes to society, social matters, when it comes to the statements with the community or with the society or with the ummah or with organizations, institutions and organizations and masajid and so forth and so on, the vision and the mission is based upon the principles of Islam. And they make sure it's the haqq, it's the truth, it is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, it is what the leaders of the past would do. Yeah? It's not simply, it's the ijtihad, because I'm a scholar, I've done the ijtihad, and I'm right. No, they take the due diligence to make sure that it is the haqq opinion, it is the haqq conclusion they have come to. If you can have mentors like that, teachers like that, mentors like that, coaches like that, 10 of them separately, all of them developing and teaching you and mentoring you and disciplining you, then I think the ummah will be in very, very good hands. The future of the ummah will be in very good hands. Let me also make the distinction between a role model and a leader who you ought to seek mentoring from, and a teacher who can teach you, but he's not really a mentor or a coach at the level of leadership. Okay, let me just make those three distinctions. So if you really want to reach the level of your potential and level of leaving a legacy for the ummah and doing something for the ummah, then you need to be associating yourself of developing and disciplining and mentoring with the leaders, and not necessarily simply teachers and not necessarily simply role models. Give you an example. So your role model, for example, is your mother. Now you can learn so much from your mother just by observing, just by being with her, just by in the crises and difficulties and challenges, some of the statements she makes, some of the realities you see of her making dua to Allah, reciting the Quran, sadaqah. All of this can really discipline you, develop you, empower you, comfort you, make you content, internally solidify you and ground you and anchor you. She's your role model, no doubt. But when it comes to you achieving your potential, you need an external leader that takes that groundedness of yours, right, and then gives you your bar for you to aim for you to achieve, for you to attain. Yeah. So your mother's role model, she can be a teacher, but not necessarily she will be your mentor and your coach. For that, you need real men of the society who are leaders of the society, mentoring you, developing and disciplining. Okay? So that's role model. Let's take a teacher. For example, the one who teaches you and not make belittling it or in any way, someone who teaches you, for example, the first years of recitation of the Quran or memorizing the Quran in the beginning stages, or teaching Arabic language, or teaching alif ba ta tha. Those teachers at the level of very local level of teaching. Yeah, they're not visionaries. They don't have a mission, except at the very ground level of teaching. Okay, they are teachers, but not necessarily they will become your mentors and coach to the level of making you attain and achieve your potential of what Allah subhanahu has given you within you for the greater society and greater ummah. Okay, so they are your teachers, but not necessarily they are your coaches and mentors for you to achieve your greatest potential. So in other words, if I was to put a ladder right? The ones who are at the top of the ladder by which they can make you achieve your potential, by which you were created for, they are your leaders, they are your mentors, and they are your coaches. Anyone beneath the more ground, on the ground level they are, right? They are your role models. They're your more of your teachers rather than being your mentors and coaches and your leaders. The more higher you go up the ground level, right, on the ladder of your achieving your potential, the more sami'na wa ata'na you ought to have, the more observation awareness you ought to have, the more specific questions you ought to ask. Lastly, right at the top, so for example, if you can have all of all the 10 of your leaders right at the top, that'd be fantastic. You will be achieving so much, inshallah, in your life. Yeah, those role models, when it comes to outlook, and their wholesome character, what will they have? Will they be expertise on a certain thing, or will they be general and multiple? They're able to do multiple tasks. They are able to. So I'll summarize the wholesome outlook they will have. Okay. So firstly, they will have history with them. They will be aware of the present society, the actual structure of society, present society. By these two, they will calculate their future. So they will not just leave it stagnant. Okay, I know the history, I know the present. Okay, no, they will actually calculate the future. They will actively, they will proactively, consciously, proactively, they will play a part in dictating that future. So they know the history. Okay, so they will have history. They know the history. Their history, the society's history, the ummah's history, they're aware of it. They know the present realities. People can't really fool them easily, right? And they will play conscious, proactive role in the dictation of the future that's coming. And lastly, they will have a bond. No, they will have a bond with Allah Subhanahu wa Taala at a level which is wholeheartedly external from the creation. Islam, it gives them two names. Give these people two titles. Number one, gives them the title of Imam. If they have positional authority, then they will be Khalifs. If they don't have positional authority, they will be Imams. Like governors, ministers, they'll be Imams. If they are more scholar, then and the position authority is not given to them, then they are called alim. Alim. So Islam titles them with these titles. So at the top you have Khalif, you also have Imam, and you also have Alim. Okay. They are everywhere. They are everywhere in every country, in every nation, in every, not say locality, but you can say every greater locality. You'll find them. They know the history of Islam. They know the history of societies. They know the history of nations. They also know the present history. They're aware of it. They know what's happening. And they play a conscious, proactive role in dictating the betterment of the society, right? At the same time, they have a bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is external to the creation. Which is external to the creation. I.e., they can exclude the whole of the creation and bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wholeheartedly, internally, in such a way that the bond is very deep, very meaningful, very profound. Okay? I can give you example, for example, of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, before he was killed, right? More than around 2,000 people gathered around his house, A'udhu Billah, for 40 plus days, intending to kill him. And you find that he was calm, collected, right? He made sure there was no spilling of blood. If there was any blood spilled, it was his. And he completely externally excluded the whole creation, and he was in complete, deep, profound bonding with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was bonding with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in such a profound, meaningful way that he was able to exclude all the just outside his house, all the noise, all the fuss about him, and he was also able to defend himself and recite the Quran and then become a shaheed whilst he was reciting the Quran. And you find when you read Uthman, his character was so generous, so kind, so merciful, such a visionary, such a deep thinker for the greater benefit of the ummah. Some of the statements on those last days of his was so heartbreaking. At the same time, it was so profound. Some of the statements said, "The ummah will never be united if you kill me. You will always remain divided until Qiyamah Day." It's so true. So you find that these leaders, right? They have the history, they have the present, they calculate for the future, but they can internally exclude everyone externally, the whole creation, and they bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything becomes slow motion for them. They can zoom out and they can become and collected. We as Muslims, we ought to find them, and then we ought to surrender to them, and we ought to consciously, proactively learn to develop and discipline ourselves by them and through them. Only then will be able to produce leaders of the ummah, and then inshallah ta'ala we can eventually, hopefully, lead the ummah in its right track, right direction, and eventually bring about the unity, the prosperity, and the relief and the joy that we are all seeking for and making dua for. بارك الله فيكم، تقبل الله منا ومنكم صالح الأعمال، جزاكم الله خير. اللهم أعز المسلمين، اللهم أعز المسلمين، اللهم أعز المسلمين، اللهم وحد صفوف المسلمين، اللهم وحد صفوف المسلمين، اللهم وحد صفوف المسلمين، اللهم وحد قلوبنا، اللهم وحد قلوبنا، اللهم وحد قلوبنا، اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، اللهم ألف بين قلوبنا، اللهم قونا يا عزيز يا حكيم، اللهم قونا يا عزيز يا حكيم، اللهم قونا يا قوي يا عزيز، اللهم قونا يا قوي يا عزيز. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.